Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got Dr. Christina Rahm, and today we're going to be talking about, what is going on with all these viruses that are coming out right now, the Hunter virus, the Ebola virus, and the bird flu, and everything else. Of course, we've heard it before. We've had COVID, just 6 years ago, which feels still feels like just 2 years ago, but it's 6 years already gone. But what's the real narrative going on, Dr. Christina Rahm? If you could explain to us, what's going on. I know you're here to heal the world. This is your purpose. You've lost a child from diseases. You've had a disease yourself, and you've cured yourself in the alternative way. And you are at the ground roots level, boots on the ground, creating amazing, elements and allowing the viewers to have access to amazing benefits, because obviously you're speaking from firsthand experience. But where are we right now politically in this pharmaceutical world we're living in, with all of these different narratives of propaganda, where people are now questioning their reality? What's going on? Can we trust big pharma? Can we trust what they're telling us?
Yeah, so abs- ab- actually, I came to our headquarters about 4 or 5 weeks ago and internally announced we're getting ready to have about 10 viruses that are going to either mutate or be stronger than they have in the past, which for me is just common sense, understanding the way viruses work, because viruses work to take over the host, right? And bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungus, they all want to basically dominate. And when you have something like the pandemic, and Nicholas, I remember when we first started talking, I was extremely worried about fungus and parasites and other viruses and bacteria, because once something mutates to a high level like the COVID virus did, because COVID had been around since the 1600s, but it mutated to a point that it was taking over populations, right? And people were dying. When that happens as a scientist, that other things are going to follow, and that everyone's basically going to try to win, if that makes sense. Like another virus is going to try to win. COVID was trying to take over, but at the same time, bacteria, fungus, and other viruses, right? Parasites were trying to take over as well, because if they can take us over, then they're in control. And I say this constantly, humans are the most important thing and the best energy, best matrix, I'll say that, energy level that anyone has. People ask me, can you use a human body to have energy? Yes. Like our cells talk, we have energy inside of us. That's something that should empower us. But right now, to me, is a critical time. And I would have predicted probably at 5 years this would start happening. And again, it takes a while for science and reporting to catch up. At the current state of politics and the war and governments and political organizations don't have the power and the means to communicate like they used to, because we are also at an economic crisis and a worldwide crisis when it comes to conflict, as well as to the economic structures that we've built for so many years. Those are changing. And at the same time, we're being approached, in my opinion, by multiple viruses during the summer that could really impact humanity. And how much that will be released, I don't know. I know that for me, like I said, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I announced I was worried about Ebola. I was worried about the Hunta. I was worried about the Sarcadia COVID version that I understood had about a 2-week incubation period, and people wouldn't even know how they got it. And the problem is the long-term effects on the immune system kind of resemble very closely like COVID, like long COVID, only can happen initially. And most of that virus, by the way, starts with an extremely sore throat that feels like strep throat, but you also feel fatigue and a headache. And we know that's here, right? But no one's really talking about it. The canine COVID virus is another thing, along with the swine and bird flu and everything else, right? So for me, these mutations of these viruses, whether they're man-made or not, is kind of irrelevant to me, because I've worked for some of the top pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, J&J, Biogen, Alexion, Bristol Myers, UCB. I could go on. And I did that. I've done various positions where I've been exposed to clinical, medical, and research, right? And through that, there's a lot of great things I think that some of those companies tried to do. On the flip side of that, there's also some things that have been probably harmful or hurtful to societies in general. And that's in any major area of the world: politics, economics, unfortunately, also healthcare. So, this right now, with all these viruses happening and obviously either mutating or being new, and no one has seen anything like it, which is basically the same as mutating, whether it's man made or not. It's a critical factor in the world. And for me, I don't know how much more the world can take. So it makes what I've focused on through the patents and through natural products, as well as pharmaceutical items that I filed, very important. I took a very different approach, and my approach has been, how do we protect the human body? I am not for anything hurting humanity. I have 4 children. I lost a child, you're right. I had myself personal issues in health. And that really created for me really a second, if not a first mission in my life. And what I mean by that is, to me, being a mother of 4 and getting ready to be a grandmother, I want to talk about this and what we do and how do we protect ourselves. To me, this is not a taboo topic. This is something that we need to come together, whether you think something's man-made or not. Let's all agree humanity needs to help each other. Like, one of the things that's been so important to work with you, Nicholas, is I know both of us really want to help, regardless if we have the same opinion. How do we come together to be a voice of reason when people are scared, when they're in fear, when they don't understand what's happening with their health, when they can't afford to go to doctors, when they can't afford to really even have gas in a car and they're scared, right? How do we help humanity? And I think for me, that's something that we do need to talk about, because it's like when there's an elephant in the room. In the United States, we always say there's an elephant in the room and no one's talking about it, but it's huge.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. And I think shows like yours, we can talk about it and give honest opinions so that people don't think they're going crazy and they understand the reality.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for, understanding the human body, helping one another and taking responsibility for our healths and stuff like that. But when you say, whether it's man-made diseases or not, what do you mean by that? Because what do you mean by that's not relevant? Because I think we need to be aware of the reality we live in, from a political perspective. Why are these viruses created? For an example, AIDS. I believe AIDS was created in a lab and it just infected people in Africa. And now, they created this stereotype thing where, black people are not clean. So what do you think about that?
So, first of all, we know the different research that's happened throughout the world with Black people, which is not okay from a humanitarian perspective, and I'm not okay with it in any format. I want to go on record to say that. There's been all kinds of research done that first it was, and even with women, right? But in particularly Black people, or Black people and people of minority statuses. And so for me, this is an issue. It is a problem. And of course, I would never be okay with that. I think when I say that about man-made or not, if you look at what I do for a living, I'm dedicated every day to trying to figure out, how do I create natural blockades for the body so we can protect the immune system, protect the cells in the body, and create this balance, even though there's a war going on inside of our body and outside. That's the problem right now. It's everywhere. The reason for me it's irrelevant is because I have to approach what's in front of me and develop things from a formulation perspective that can help people. If I focus too much on the other things, I'd probably lose my mind and be angry all the time. But I wrote a book called Military Science, and it's available online or at the Root Brands. And we launched that with Karen Floyd and Elysian at the Kennedy Center, and all kinds of politicians were there. And in the book, I talk about biological warfare. And I wrote this book going back to about the year 2000. I think that's when I wrote it in a dissertation. And I talked about biological warfare because at the time, and this shows you how all of us are so different. I had 4 children. At the time, I didn't have 4, though. I only had 2, right? So now I have 4. And at the time, I was focused on really trying to understand. If you think about my career, I'm exposed to what's going on, right? And not really understanding, because I sign NDAs, what everyone else understands. I just understand when I'm hired to do a job or to work on something scientifically, it needs to be, this was always my understanding, to help humanity. And so I did understand that we were working on retroviruses and different types of viruses in a lab, because to create like vaccines or to create a cure, we were told, you have to work on different aspects, whether it's a human monoclonal antibody through a vaccine or actually creating a live virus. It depends on what you're doing. The goal is to protect the body. Where I was conflicted and where I didn't understand, and I asked many questions, was understanding that our government and every government has to work on biologics, not just for this, but also in the times of war. Of course, most of that is top secret, and you understand why, because your countries are trying to protect each other. My role was never doing that. Does that make sense? Like, my role was never going in. I think right now the manufacturing, I'm registered with the Department of Defense and with the FDA, and I'm doing natural things to really protect the body and to really help the body, including peptides and different things that can help all of us. My role has never been, though, to go in and to create a biologic for the military or to create a biologic that could hurt people for pharmaceuticals. So for me, I just attach, in my mind, the way I think is, whether it's man-made or not, this is a virus, and how do we protect people? Because that's where I'm coming from. I have to focus on what I can do, and the other part of the world I can't control. But to me, it didn't even make sense to me that people didn't know that there were biologics in labs everywhere in places, because to me, this wasn't a taboo topic, except for the fact I was worried that people, like you talked about in Africa, would be impacted by this. And how would we know? And what if it was caused by something someone worked on and they had no idea? That was a concern of mine, right? And now you fast track to now. It wasn't really a major issue until the pandemic hit. But I was in my 20s and I'm in my 50s. I was in my 20s understanding. So, I mean, it was 30 years ago, Nicholas, where I understood there's things that are happening. We're supposed to help humanity. We're trying to, but does it always work out that way? So when you ask me, does it matter? It's only because of how I'm approaching it as a scientist, because my job, in my opinion, is just to help people and to get rid of any virus, to help the body protect the immune system, to give the body the tools it needs. And because I believe that we are definitely the smartest, brightest, best, I believe if we can come together to protect humanity, we can survive as a species. The opposite of that is for all of us to be mad at each other and not work together and try to basically become extinct.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't want that, because I'm having a grandson. Yeah.
I do. I think that's the right way. I think it's good to be aware, which you said you are, and you don't like to go down that spiral, because then you'll just go crazy. Yeah. And you rather be present and focus on what you can make a difference on. And I think that's the right way. In my opinion.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Here's where I get frustrated, and I'll never be able to probably handle this frustration inside. I just don't talk about it a lot. When I worked in pharmaceutical and biotech, and even like right now, I'm creating things. I'm filing patents to get rid of nuclear waste, to help with energy. I'm trying all these different things, but I'm the inventor, right? I'm the scientist that's doing it. Pharmaceutical biotech companies are the companies that create things, and then they educate doctors. What's very frustrating to me is to see a doctor come out and say they know something 100%. And in my opinion, unless they actually worked on that project or they understand the science of going into a lab and being a scientist and a researcher, how do you know for sure? So you have the mass majority of doctors that, of course, care about humanity, but they're saying none of this could have been conducted on purpose. But how would they know? They went to school. They went to residency, they get out, and I'm not putting them down at all, because we need doctors and we need brilliant doctors, but their jobs are to diagnose and treat. Kind of like what I said to you is, it doesn't matter to me because I need to figure out a solution, is why it matters to me. But let me, yeah. I'm going to take my words back. It really matters to me, but there's nothing I can do about bad people or people that are just worried about money or just worried about power, right? I can't control them. And so for me, I wish more doctors and more people understood this is where we are, and we need to help people. We need to work together. And maybe some of the things we've been taught throughout our life and on this earth have been inaccurate. Because, when you're raised in a small town like me, you're brought up to think everyone loves you, everyone cares, that no one would ever hurt you, right? Why would a government or a person ever hurt you? And then fast track me to now, I've worked in 94 countries. Of course, I understand the reality. And I just want to be able for people to live a life where they're happy, to understand their solutions. And of course, I want us to fix what's going on that's wrong. But I'm trying my best during what I see as a time of crisis that's going to happen again. You already have the war, you already have the economy, and now the viruses. How can humanity handle so many things at once? So for me, I always go back to this. Yes, there's an issue. And yes, we've done things as humanity that we shouldn't have. I haven't. You haven't, Nicholas. That's because we're here to help, to heal, to provide information that we can help everyone around us, right? The answer is not burying our heads in the sand, though. You are right. The answer is not denying or not talking about things. The answer is for us to have these discussions and people to listen and to be able to somehow read through what we're both saying and understand this is a concern. This is an issue. So how do we protect ourselves? And how do we really help others during this time?
Absolutely. And many of the doctors that, you speak of who haven't really been involved in the laboratories and the research or the experiments themselves or the trials, and they just go along with what they've been told from higher up. I think it's because they are actually really good people and they just genuinely believe that the system cares about us. They believe that, and that's because they're innocent.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. 100%. And that's why I feel arrogant when I even say what I'm saying. And I have to say this, if I had been isolated just in pharmaceutical biotech and not traveled to all these countries and worked for governments and been everywhere, I probably wouldn't even know all the things I'm talking about, because my mind, what you're told is not really exactly what's happening. If you're involved, you, of course, if you're intelligent, you see through things, and eventually you get to the fact where you realize you can either handle it or not, right? And then, can you handle the truth? Are you going to stay at the company or are you going to leave? What is the answer, right? And then if you fast forward to me actually meeting with governments, meeting with people, understanding what's going on, understanding what really happened with the shot and what didn't happen, who took it, who didn't, all of those factors, and then understanding who actually developed things and how did it get here and who's making money off of it and who has control of it. Doctors go to school and they're brilliant, right? They would never be a doctor unless they were great at taking tests and great at understanding here's a problem and here's what to do, because that's what they do. They diagnose, and people need to understand this. There's never 100% accurate diagnosis, even when you think there is. It's a series of things the doctors have that they think, well, this is what I'm going to diagnose. Multiple sclerosis, lupus, based on a series of tests, right? We could find out 5 years from now that none of those tests were accurate and that didn't actually exist, and it was something else that was caused by a virus or an environmental factor. But if a doctor's trained on that, they're going to treat like that. And so for me, you're exactly right. I'm so glad you said it this way, because I feel so arrogant. It's one of the reasons I don't talk about it, because I don't want to act like I'm more important and I know more. The truth is, they're doing their job. They went into medicine to help patients, to help people. To think that anyone would do anything to harm anyone almost takes someone understanding business and government and power. I shouldn't even laugh when I say that. It's not what a scientist is used to, because I'm fairly naive. In my mind, I was raised in a small town. I want everything to be perfect. So when the world was open to me to start understanding what was going on, it was really hard for me to swallow that, right? When I wrote the military science book and I wrote this section on biologics, when they came back to me and said, we're going to take this section out, I said, why? And I wrote that in the year 2000. And I was told, because this is something the world can't accept. And I'm like, what do you mean? Doesn't everyone know? So I think, Nicholas, I need to send you the book, because
send it.
if I'm the author, and if you say, what do you mean? I didn't even understand. I knew I couldn't talk about things for a certain number of years, but I never understood that the mass majority of people didn't know those things existed. I needed you to know that. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
at that point understand that. So for me, when everyone was talking about whether it was man-made or not, just so you know, I had a definite conclusion in my mind, what I thought, and didn't understand how everyone didn't know it. Just because I didn't talk about it didn't mean that I didn't know it, right? And I didn't understand that everyone else didn't know. But now, fast forward to today, I do understand. How would they know? Like, how would people know? Unless you worked on projects, unless you were approached by a group to go into that lab like I was, how would you know, right? And so it's the question for me has always been, was that done on purpose? Does that make sense? And if it was, who did it?
Hmm.
So for me, it's not a question of the existing viruses that are out there in my mind are viruses, whether they were man-made or not, they've mutated. So probably there was something involved where it naturally viruses progress, but when it becomes so many viruses and so many things, you're just like, obviously I have my own opinion and my own conclusion. Let me just say this, I wish I was naive as I was when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s. I wish sometimes that I did not know what I know. And I wish that, and I understand some people wanting to bury their hands in the sand and not thinking anything bad could ever happen, because I have that in my personality. I just want everything to be okay. I want everyone to be healthy. I want everyone to be happy. I don't want there to be wars. That sounds naive, but there's a part of me as a female and as a mother, just bear in mind, I do want to be protected sometimes. And I mean, most women do, right? But I appreciate and acknowledge the women out there that have been able to step up and really talk about things that are hard to talk about that most people don't want to hear.
Absolutely, absolutely. See, my philosophy is that I'd rather know. I'd rather know the truth and be hurt. You know. Yeah, I think this is just my personal opinion. For me, everyone's different, and I prioritize, for me, truth, and be hurt. But I completely understand you're a peaceful person, and you want to live in harmony with the world. What do you think about um, this spiritual shift that we're going to? A lot of scientists, alternative scientists like David Wilcock, who
Yeah.
was recently assassinated, who committed suicide apparently, but he kept saying, "I'm not suicidal." He kept saying that. I don't know if you've heard of David Wilcock,
I
but
have. Yeah.
yeah, he's talking about, the sun flaring, which is
Yeah.
sending us intelligent energy, and it's affecting consciousness in, rising, and people questioning their realities and stuff like that. And one of the symptoms is us becoming maybe a little bit ill. And in the metaphysical world, the
Yeah.
Matrix is playing out a storyline that makes sense to us, and
Yeah.
that it's playing out this story that the viruses are making us ill, but really we're going through a conscious shift. What do you think about that?
So I want to go back to what you said earlier, that you understand me not wanting to know things. I want you to know I know a lot of things.
I'm sure you do.
when I say I don't want to know, I'm almost at a tipping point, because I've been exposed in the last 7 years to more, 6, 7 years to more than I ever thought I could handle. And so I am with you. I want to know. I just wish I had a better way to communicate it. And I'm working on that to figure out what is the best solution, because strategically, I just don't want to blow up the ability to help people in the role I am. Like, I look at life. So this is going to your question. And this makes a lot of people upset with me, and they're probably going to be upset when they hear me say this. I do look at life kind of like we're in a matrix in a game, and I always have. And I've never known how to communicate that to people. But even when I was little, I always think you either level up or you level down. And whether I do believe in God, so I think He's watching. And for me, this spiritual transition, which I do understand and I know about, and I think it's been going on, I think, a lot longer. I think some people listen, I know from school, and I know from learning, and I know from the scientific information I have, that our cells talk. We've talked about that. There are some people that are psychic in ability, they understand things and other people don't. And then people think they're crazy because how can this one person know things? Now, your government agencies, like in our country, the CIA and FBI, they understand these people, right? And they hire these people and they work with them because they have an ability to connect and energetically and spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, really understand stuff that other people don't. If you took that information out there, which some people have, and by the way, I would never kill myself either. So if that ever happens, that was not all these doctors. This just happens to. It's not a coincidence, and I think both of us know that. It's really sad to me because these are people that are trying to enlighten humanity, but humanity doesn't want to be enlightened and doesn't. It's easier to get rid of that, right, than deal with it, especially for people in power that don't want other people to know. So my answer to your question is I do believe this is not just happening now, although there's an heavy change happening now, right? And I do believe, and I talk about this a lot, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, mentally affect us physically more than anything. Like when you talk about environmental factors that are happening, I think one of the biggest is spiritually, emotionally, what's happening and what's happening with people really becoming a little bit more enlightened about how life really is. And I think this has been going on forever, but it's like starting with the pandemic, it's like a speed focus, right? And it's the people trying to catch up. For me, and I'm going to be very careful how I say this, this is not new. This is not, for me, this is not something that you're telling me that I don't know about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's something that I just don't speak about.
Hmm.
But I could go back to 2015 when I was asked to go into Wuhan and the approach that was taken with me that I turned that project down. It was either Wuhan or Costa Rica at the time, the two labs. And I understand we're in some kind of transition, even at that point, because I was told and it was explained to me. And I will tell you at that point, and this has happened to me through various points in my life, you know, when you hear something and it just takes you a while to even sleep or to digest it, because you know it's true, but you're not exactly sure how to handle it as a person. I went through that in 2015. And I've gone through that a couple of times in my life. So I think what's happening now is a result of a lot of changes. I mean, you even hear the stuff, just so you know, I'm very, because I've been knighted into various organizations and then I've, worked with different groups. So I do understand too the potential of catastrophic events happening, not just in war, not just in humanity with viruses and the economic changes that are happening, but also with our environment and what can happen. And if you ask me, is it man-made or is it something that's been basically part of the matrix and
I know what
part
you want to
of,
say. I think
yes,
maybe you want to
yeah,
say non-human intelligence.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then my answer is, of course,
So
right?
let me,
But do I know how to talk about it? Not 100%.
so when you
Yeah,
said that, it took you a while to process, from the things that you were told in 2015, we're going through a transition.
yeah.
Are you talking about you were told by a group of people in authority with power
Yeah.
that they're aware of this shift going on and possibly they want to slow it down?
The I was told that there was this what was going to happen, and that what was happening, and then I was an integral part of trying to create solutions. And of course, in 2000, and this is going back to when I was younger. Even when I was married before this happened multiple times, people coming up to me, and my ex-husband was a professional football player. We were definitely in an environment of stable people, but people with power and position. And there was something different about me and different about other people too, not just me, that was brought up. Because when you're in positions of a lot of influence, right? Sometimes I think you're exposed to more. I don't mean that arrogantly,
I know what you mean.
but
Yeah.
I was definitely told that I was part of trying to correct this from another, place, and explained to me how some of us were from here and some of us weren't. And again, in my mind, I took that back to because I do believe in God. I do believe in something higher. I do know I always have had dreams since I was little of these women around this globe looking down on earth and trying to create solutions. And this is really weird, but I've had this since I was a little girl. And during that in 2015, they actually explained that dream to me without me telling them the dream and what it meant, and told me we were going through transitions and in the world and what was getting ready to happen, and that it was a critical time, but that evolution would happen regardless. And so that was something that I had to wrestle with really alone. I remember going to sleep that night. I'm not going to say exactly where I was that night, but I remember I didn't sleep. And then there were some things that happened the 2 to 3 weeks after, 4 weeks after, that were really disturbing to me, but also kind of like explained to me that there was some of this that was true, right? If not all of it, that I just didn't understand it and couldn't comprehend it. And while I had the meetings that happened in 2015, I was told that I did understand, that I just wasn't willing to accept it, that I had understood since I was little and I just needed to understand it. But if I went out into the world and talked about that, I would look crazy. And if I said who was in that meeting, they would. And it was a heavy meeting, but I will tell you there was nothing in that meeting that has not been accurate to this day.
So basically, they saw something in you, I think spiritually.
Yeah.
They invited you in, they asked you if you could participate in this project. And they basically explained to you that there's going to be a shift, a transition, and this event in 2020. And when you, did you back away after? Did you? I think that's what you said. You didn't want to be part of that. You backed away. Did they give you enough information that made you want to back away? Or because I know sometimes what they do is they give you small compartments informations where the person doesn't know too much, but they can just get the job done.
No, it was a lot of information. Okay. It was a lot of information, a lot of access to everything that's happened in your country, in my country, and all over that I did not have. If you ask when they were telling me, my brain, the way I think, connected everything and understood it, right? But was just blown away. There were some very heavy things that happened in those 2 to 3 days, very, very heavy for me to accept. And they asked at one point if they could pray to me, and I didn't understand that. And I said, why would you do that? And they said, because we think you have the ability to help people. And for me, being raised in the home I was raised, which was Southern Baptist, that was very hard for me. Like I would just have to say my background, being raised in a small town of 5,000 to 6,000, and then that happening was so overwhelming that for me, I had to really step back and think, how do I even deal with this conversation? And yes, that is why I didn't take the project, but also because I had this gut instinct that if I participated in the project, something could go wrong and it would be a negative. And I had to leave my kids for 6 to 9 months, and I did not want to do that. There was a lot of factors, but I will tell you, do I think they lied to me? No. Do I think they knew information that I am aware of but not aware of or willing to accept? Yes. And
So when they said to you, we think you can help people, were they trying to help people, or were they saying that to you to buy you?
I didn't know that. That was my problem. And at the time, I had already started working on a version of Clean Slate, which we had at Root. And my solution was, I'm going to do the right thing and figure out how I help, because being told as a teenager and then being told in my 20s and my 30s that there was going to be a war in healthcare and all these issues were going to happen. And then me having the background experience as a scientist, in my mind, I didn't want to be someone that looked crazy. I didn't want to be someone, I'm a scientist. I didn't want my career attacked. What I wanted was to provide solutions for people. And that was really my goal. So for me, when I stepped back into that, I will tell you the one thing that was great that happened. It gave me a sense of urgency to understand as a scientist what I needed to probably prepare for. And because I had been exposed to certain things throughout my life that I know most people weren't, then and I didn't like to even go to my parents or my family that doesn't look, we're a normal family. Like it doesn't look right. For me, I'm so glad. I don't know how you saw through that. Maybe we've had a discussion before, or we probably have. I did not know whether their intention was strictly good or bad, or I probably would have made a different decision. Does that make sense?
It
For
does,
me,
yeah.
it was a concern because you don't know. I think a lot of times you go into organizations or commitments or politics or governments or whatever you're in, and you have that person has the right intention. But if you're not careful, you can get off track. And I haven't gotten off track. So I'm glad I made the decision I did. However, I can't tell you how many times I've thought, what if I made a different decision when things have turned out differently? Or would I even be alive? Like, I don't know the answer to that because some of the scientists that went over to work on the project never came back, and I haven't had contact with them since then.
So you were invited in the Wuhan project. You learned a lot of information. You followed your gut. You said, no, I'm going to go away and I'm going to create what I wanted to create to help humanity, and follow your own path. But when they told you about this transition and before you left, um, what was the reason why this transition was happening?
They said
Why?
it had been planned for thousands, hundreds of years. That this was not something that was new. This was how it was laid out to me, and it wasn't laid out as a Wuhan project. It was a project working with retroviruses to help things like HIV and to
Right.
help things like different diseases. And it wasn't. I knew where the lab was, but it was never called that. And the way it was explained to me, which I do believe is accurate, is this was not something new. This
Can
had
I
been a long path.
can I ask you, do you think that these vaccines are are supposed to um they're supposed to stop us or delay us from ascension, or heavy metals that go into the body, that radio frequency could be sent to the body, where it can influence the thoughts and the feelings?
I definitely think heavy metals, so I'm going to answer it this way to be careful. I think heavy metals do impact your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your understanding, and your connection with people. If you have heavy metals and toxins in the body, even your ability to communicate or to think in some kind of sane manner don't occur, in my opinion. As is because when you block the ability for cells to communicate, and I'm going to tell you the spiritual connection for me is the most important. When you block that and you have zero communication, whether it's with, I know a lot of people say aliens, whatever you want to say, right? Like for me as a kid, there was never a question whether there were alternative universes. Like that's why I don't even really know how to have that conversation. I never thought we were the only people here. And I honestly, when you hear the religious debate on that, it didn't even make sense to me. No, God could create a million. Like there's some universe more evolved than us, because to me, we're here to learn lessons, and we either go up or we go down. And part of those lessons are, how do we take care of our body and how do we spiritually connect? And if you listen to your inner voice, you know the answer to that. And if you don't want to and you want to listen to other people and just follow what they tell you to do, that's what you're going to do. And to me, I know this sounds horrible, but it defines the difference between the weak and the strong in my mind. And I hate saying that, but like, I do agree, you have to be aware. You have to, and if you don't understand what's going on, here's my honest communication to people: you don't have to understand. What you have to do is protect your body and others and your spiritual and mental emotional connection. And so for you not to think something's going on that's hurting us, to me, I don't even understand the thought process. Look what's going on around us, Nicholas. You can't even tell me that strategically, economics,
Yeah.
warfare. And I just left a meeting where they were like, this has been going on for centuries. No, it hasn't. We are at a critical point. They went through all the different things that have happened throughout our world. And I agree, there's been horrible things happen. But on the flip side, we're definitely at a moment that we will either go up or we will go down. And each person gets to make that choice. And that's my opinion. That's probably
Yeah.
more than I've ever said to anyone.
I'll
That's
tell you something. I've interviewed you before many times, and I've met you as well. A wonderful lady, by the way. And I just want to, I'm saying that so the viewers can know as well, you know.
thank you.
Um,
Well,
but we've never spoken about metaphysical stuff,
no.
spirituality, and I love this. And the viewers love it too. Let me tell you, I've done a lot of other podcasts with other people, and they love it. So they're going to love this. But yeah, I always talk to you about science and health and stuff like that. And I feel more comfortable to share something with you. So from my research, I'm not a doctor. I'm not as knowledgeable as
You
you,
don't need to be a doctor.
you
It's
know,
it doesn't have anything to do
but
with that.
I
Yeah.
want to share this with you because I just want to see what you think. But from my knowledge, obviously, when we look at an atom, it's 99.9% space. This is a hologram,
Right.
okay? And I believe that we are God in form, experiencing the illusion of separation, and when all collapses, there is one, and that is awareness. That's source awareness, okay? And there's been a bit of consciousness that's separated, which is the inversion of source, which wants to create synthetic, and we are organic. We have
Right.
intuition, we
Right.
have love, compassion.
100%.
But then there is the AI overmind, which
Yep.
is synthetic, and it wants to override organic life. Okay.
Yeah. Override our system, override the
Yeah.
matrix. Yeah.
And there is this. The world has gotten so bad that God or source or whatever you want to call it is now sending some frequency, supernatural energy to our sun that's going to that's going to raise our frequency, where we will remember who we are. We go, our atoms start behaving differently. They shift into 5D, like 12,500 years ago when Atlantis was around. They fell from 5D to 4D to 3D because of this non human intelligence that I call the consciousness that detach themselves from source to experience separation, which they are the inversion of source, who is overriding organic with synthetic. So what I understand is that the vaccines are here to destabilize us from our intuition, to make us more vulnerable to control, so that their very final attempt is to capture souls, because they need souls, because we generate loosh energy, is to use digital ID systems not only to track us, but to tether our toroidal energetic field so that they could tether us onto their synthetic hologram, not organic hologram, so that when we die, we don't have a choice if we want to reincarnate or we go back to source or whatever, that we will get automatically reincarnated onto the synthetic hologram that they create away from source. And then they can get forever soul, you know,
Energy. Yeah,
energy.
they have it basically goes into that matrix instead of the other one, and you're continuously trapped. My grandmother believed in that, and she taught me that. She was one of the smartest individuals I've ever met in my life. So behind the scenes, we had all these long conversations, and I identify completely with what you said. I think about it a little bit differently, but not much, to be honest with you. I just have not talked about it because everyone's always talking to me about science, and I think it makes people uncomfortable because spiritually, that's where I get the information, and that's my connection. I am so sorry. I'm going to have to go, Nicholas, but I
Yes.
want to continue this. Can we do this? And then can I please have you on my podcast, Stephanie?
Oh, absolutely. Do you know what? Before we go, just tell the viewers quickly about the links I'm going to share below in the description, because they are basically the things that you've made. They detox the body from heavy metals, and it's helped a lot of people. And then we'll end it there. Thank you.
Yeah. So the root brands I made in case we couldn't have meat or food or chicken or any of the stuff we can't have, or the plants and seeds were hurting us spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Again, this all goes back to, I believe we are a vessel or body. I believe, like Nicholas, like spiritually, this is something that's happening to everyone. These are barricades that can protect the body. That's why I made them. And they also are to really help the body be empowered, because for me, the goal is you empower spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and you get rid of the stuff that shouldn't be in the body. So I believe the vaccines were just a tipping point. I don't even know if I should have said that on this show, but I believe it was everything from pollution to war. And look what's happening right now. Because when you hit a point like that, then you're in control in another way, which is a synthetic way, which there's nothing great about that for any of us. So I created that whole brand starting with Clean Slate to really help. And we can talk about that more next time. I would push the next meeting if I could, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I respect that. Dr. Christina Rahm, thank you very much. And we'll speak again very soon. You take care and God bless. Bye bye.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Nicholas.